Hi, welcome to my channel. In this video, I'll be doing a demo session to show you how we can use some of the most popular AWS services to create a mini application which we can use to send email alerts. So this is the application which we'll be creating using the AWS services. It will be a daily stock email alert application which would send stock information on daily basis to different email subscribers. Let's say this is the structure of the application which you're creating. Say for example, there is a third party who is creating the files for your stock application and it's uploading into your AWS, and you are using that file in a particular service to consume that file, and that service is scheduled to run at a particular time daily, and once that file is consumed, you will forward the content in that file to a certain service, and that service would send email to the different consumers or subscribers. So the names of the services in AWS which would be used to perform each of these operations are as follows. So we would be using something called as an S3, which is used to store and retrieve files. So you would be storing those files in an S3 bucket. We would be using something called as CloudWatch event rule to schedule the jobs to run and consume those files. The job itself would be written as a service called as Lambda, which lets you run code without managing or provisioning any servers. And then finally, we will be using SNS, which is simple notification service, which would actually get that data and send emails to the subscribers which are subscribed to the topic in SNS. So this is just a small mini application in which we can see how different AWS services work and interact with each other. So let's go into the demo. So everything which is part of this demo would be done directly on AWS console. Whatever is being done on AWS console can also be done through code, but just for demo purpose, I'll be showing you everything through console. You can also repeat what I've done by creating a free tier in AWS and using all the services. So let's start with the S3 bucket. So if you search for S3, you can be redirected to that particular service. So here you can see an option to create a bucket. And I have to give a name for the bucket. Only thing I have to take care is that it should be unique. So after naming it, I am not going to change much in the general parameters, and I'll scroll down and create that bucket. So I've got some error because this name already exists. So let me rename it. So I've just given another name, so let's try it again. So it has created a bucket. That means now we have a place where we can store the files. So now let's say the third party would create the files in different folders, and the folders would be like the dates, or whenever a new file is uploaded, it would be created with a folder of that particular day, and then we'll have that stock file. So for this example, let's just manually create that. So I can go to create folder, and I can provide the name, and now I can just create that folder. So this folder is created under this bucket, And let's just upload a dummy file for our application test purpose. So I can just click on add file and upload a file from local. So I uploaded this text file and this is its destination. So I'll just upload it. So now I have a file here. Now let's go on to the next service, that is SNS, where we would be sending emails. So I'll search for SNS. So I can go to simple notification service, and here I can create a new topic for my SNS. So I've given it a name and I'll keep all basics and create that topic. So once I've created that topic, I need subscriptions to that topic, so I can actually create a subscription right now. So I can provide a protocol for that subscription. So for example, it will be email. So the subscriber which will have a particular email ID would subscribe to it. So let's provide a test email ID and I can create that subscription. So I've created this subscription and you can see that listed out here. Now a notification email would go to that particular email and they have to confirm for the subscription. Once it's confirmed, this status will change. Now since that is done, let's go to the main crux of this small project. We would be creating a Lambda code or Lambda service. So I'll open the Lambda service for it. So here you can create a Lambda service using the create function button. And I'll name it. You can use Java, Node.js, Python, Ruby and other options. I would choose Python for my example. And then I'll create that function. So this is how the function looks. To begin with, I have to create a trigger for this Lambda. So as we discussed, we'll have an event trigger which would daily trigger this Lambda, and when the Lambda runs, it can call the S3 file and send the data into SNS. So first step is to add that trigger. So I'll click on here. So we can trigger using different sources. For our example, we would be using EventBridge CloudWatch events, and I'll create a new rule. Let's give it a name, and the rule can have an event pattern or a schedule expression. So we'll use a cron schedule as in this example. So we are setting up a cron to run daily at morning 10 a.m. and once we add it, you can see that it's get listed here. So this would be the trigger for this Lambda. Daily at 10 a.m. our EventBridge would call this Lambda. So for now, if you go to the code section of this Lambda, you can see a dummy code which is just to return 200 and say hello from Lambda. You can either upload a zip file or a S3 location file which contains the code of your Lambda function, or you can use this code editor to directly write the code here. So for the demo purpose, I have just copied the code from my local into this code editor. To explain this code, it's just creating two objects for S3 and SNS, and these are the bucket names and SNS topic ARN names which you can get from the S3 and SNS services for the newly created topic and bucket. And then I am just getting the date for today and formatting it in a particular format to create a key that would be the today's date and the file name. And then I would just use that key and that bucket name to retrieve that content from the S3 bucket. And once I get that file content, I'll use the SNS object to publish that information into the topic which I have stated earlier and the content of that file. And this is the subject which I'll be using to send the email. If it's a success, it will be success 200. If it's a success, it will be a status 200, and if you have exception, I'm catching it here. So that's just what this small code is doing. Now let's deploy it. So you can see it is successfully deployed. So before we execute the code which we have deployed, there is one final step left. In AWS, if the services have to interact with each other, they should have permissions to access the resources of those services. And the permissions are provided through IAM. So there would be different roles, and the services would be assigned to particular roles, and each role would have policies which would define what resources can those roles access. So you can see here roles. I'll create a new role. I'll create based on Lambda service. Click on next, and the permissions which I want for that Lambda service role. Since it's a demo, I'll be providing all access to the resources which I need, that is S3 and SNS. So I'll select full access. Be careful, in a real environment you should not be doing this. You should be providing access only to that particular bucket or the particular SNS topic which you want, and that should be done through policies. So you have to create policies for that part, and then you have to add those policies to those roles. But for now we are giving full access to SNS and S3, and I'll just create that. So you can see the new role, Lambda mail role, is created. Now let's go back to the Lambda service. Now you can scroll down to configuration, and you see a tab for permission. Now we can edit that permission. Right now you can see it's assigned to a different role. So I'll edit it, and here I'll choose a different role, and that's the new role which we created, and I'll save it. So by this, my new Lambda would have all the access which I've created for that particular role. And now I'll be able to test my deployment. So I'll create a test event, and I'll name it, and I'll just provide no input because my Lambda is not expecting any input, and I'll click on test. So the execution has started. So you can see it's success, and if I go to my email, you can see I have received the email from AWS, and with the subject which I had used in my Lambda, and this is the content of that text file in the S3. So it has just read that S3 file and sent it as an email to the subscribed mailbox. So this was just a small example of how different AWS services work and how they interact with each other. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you for watching.